What's up, everybody? Coach Chad here, CEO of the Next Level Coaching Academy and creator of the Fit CEO podcast. We have an amazing guest on today who is a student of NLCA and also the CEO of Father Figure Fitness. His name is Ross. Ross, give us the 30-second story, and then we're going to dive right in.
All right, my name is Ross Nevdal. Clients call me Coach. I have a beautiful wife, Ari, a son, Noah, who is 4.5, and a daughter, Noelle, who just turned a year. We live in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been in the online fitness coaching game for just about a year, like right on the dot, but only working with NLCA for 32 days. My game planning call was a day I'll never forget. It was May 5th. So I've just been working with the company for a little bit, but just very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, let's freaking go. I love the mustache, by the way. For those who are listening and can't actually see this amazing mustache, Ross has got a legit mustache.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you. This is started at the No Shave November last year, kept the mustache. My wife was a surprising fan. I check in with her like every 30 days, like, hey, are you still good with this? And she's like, oh, please don't shave it. And I'm like, that's a win for me. I love it.
Wow, that's crazy. See, I've done a mustache a few times. You might have seen in some of the modules. It's like either a full beard, mustache, no beard. I can't make up my freaking mind. Wife sometimes likes it, sometimes doesn't. So a little bit mixed signal on my end. But yeah, yours is great. But anyways, let's dive in. I have one question that I'm just genuinely curious on. Father Figure Fitness, where did that come from?
Yeah, so like I said, I have a couple kids, and I went through a personal experience that, like, about a year and a half after our son was born, I started a new day job, and in the process of working that job, taking care of a new kid, kind of lost track of my own fitness. I've been somebody that was like very adamant about maintaining my personal health and fitness, like as a point of pride. It was my hobby. Just like lost track of it, looked in the mirror one day, was like, oh dang, this is kind of tough. And decided to just make a change for myself. And through the process of that, noticed that I was kind of becoming a better dad at the same time. Hell yeah. And so my wife actually, she works in marketing, and she was like, she said, like, you're getting rid of the dad bod. And I was like, yeah, I know, I'm kind of like more of a father figure now. And she was like, ooh, that's good. Like, you should like that. And so, like, that's something that it just kind of like stuck at that point. So credit to my wife, Ari is her name. She was the one that came up with the name, but the spirit of it is really that dads have their own individual challenges that feel very unrelatable, despite the fact that there's a lot of us out there. So that's kind of the origin story.
Yeah, I love it, man. Part of the reason I got into fitness way back in the day when I was 15 was my dad wasn't super in shape. And I always told myself, I love my dad, but I always told myself that I didn't want to represent the physical character that he was in terms of how he took care of himself. So anytime I see something that's related to that, it's always a touch of the heart and inspiring as well, which is great.
Yeah. Well, good for you for like seeing the example and making a conscious choice to go the other way, because that's one of the like big whys with myself and our clients is we want to set a path to follow, not a path to avoid, because not everybody has the self-awareness and self-control to avoid the path. It just becomes like train tracks that you're just on and you don't even know it, so
yeah. In the not too distant future, I might be a father as well. So gotta set the example.
Good for you.
Yeah, man. So let's start back in the origin story. All right. So you've been doing this for a year. How did you do personal training prior to that, or what did your life look like prior to online fitness coaching?
Yeah. So in 2015, I moved from where I was, like, right out a little bit after my wife and I got engaged. I moved from where I was living in Scottsdale over to where I live now, which is in a place called Litchfield Park in West Phoenix. And when I moved over here, I'd been doing CrossFit just as a client, just when I was in Scottsdale, I moved over here. There's a gym that was kind of like recently starting. I had pursued a certification through a company in Phoenix called OPEX, and like got a certification from them. This is again 2015. So when I started at this other CrossFit gym, they were like, hey, we need folks to help. I was like, hey, I'll be your weightlifting coach. So I was the weightlifting coach there for about a year. And then after that, the resort that was here, we knew, this is like a long story, but ended up being the like personal trainer at the resort here. Nice. So just doing like one-off sessions with folks that were staying at the resort, and then had just a couple of clients that I worked with for a few months. And then what really like got it popping was COVID hit. I've been just, I say collecting, my wife might say hoarding, gym equipment in my garage for years. She's very supportive in giving me that square footage to just do whatever I want. So I appreciate that. And so during COVID, gyms were closed down and stuff. I had friends coming over to train. We had Dadder Days, we called it, or just a group of dads would get together on Saturdays. And so after that, I had a couple of guys that I ended up, you know, just based on my background, like at the time was kind of coaching them. And then, yeah, I was like, all right, yeah, I know folks that could do this. And that's when I fired up the Father Figure Instagram account, Father Figure Fitness Instagram account, and started working with people, just a couple, like one guy in California and then like one other guy here in Phoenix, and just started, you know, posting and praying that people would just show up and ask me to coach them, and surprised that didn't really work. But it was a good time. It was a good learning experience. So that was like I said, like last summer.
That's 2022. Okay, so you did a lot of in-person training prior to transitioning online, and it sounds like COVID wasn't even that transition for you, right? Because during COVID, you kept it in person, just in the garage. What was the pivotal point where you said, "Hey, I got to bring this thing online"?
The scalability piece was what was attractive to me. Like I felt like I was actually becoming my own restriction for the clients. Like they, you know, it's like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, you know, our son Noah has a soccer game, or we're going out of town for a trip to go visit my parents or something like that. And they're like, oh, okay, like guess I'm not working out this weekend. And it just became obvious that like me working with them, as nice as it was for me to be like supportive and kind of, you know, hands-on for especially the guys that were new to lifting, what I was really doing was like, I was becoming an excuse to not do the work if I wasn't there. And so like, I believe that the online structure is actually in the best support of the client as well, because you don't want to become an anchor for your client's development. You want to be wind in their sails. And so in order to do that, they have to be independent. And it's really difficult for folks to be independent when there's someone standing right next to them. It's easy to be, you know, it's easy not to cheat on the test when the teacher's standing right behind you, type thing. And so that was really kind of the aha moment for me as well. Like from not just like a business perspective, but from a client delivery perspective, I think this setup gives people a better chance at making sustainable habits that they can keep on their own, not just continuously having to buy discipline. So I think it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, that was really interestingly put. You said the autonomy piece, right? Which improves the client delivery, allows them to be more successful long term. But you also said one sentence, and this is how I interpret it. I could be wrong, but it almost sounded like there was some selfish intent in liking the in-person interaction. So you kept it along because you liked having that in-person interaction as well. Would you agree? Or am I completely
no, that's extremely perceptive, because like I'm a pretty gregarious guy, like especially when I'm hanging out with my buddies. And so I really liked that. I liked just like, hey, you know, the boys are coming over and with, you know, it's arm day, you know, it's tank top Tuesday or whatever, you know, whatever we would do. And I enjoyed that. And that was a self-limiting belief that I had about myself, was that like, you know, what was my point of differentiation was my ability to connect with people in person. And so I had a little bit of hesitation in like whether that was that ability could be translated to like a online or remote coaching environment, which it definitely can be. It absolutely can be. But at the time, that was just an excuse I was telling myself. I was like, well, like what I'm really good at is making people like me, and I can only do that if I shake their hand, just like nonsense that I was telling myself. So that's a really keen insight by you there.
Yeah. I mean, dude, your personality shines right through. So if you didn't think you could do it online, hopefully now you feel like you can.
Well, thank you. Thank you. The mustache helps,
And the shirt, man, I just realized it said Fog.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty badass. I gotta is that your brand?
Oh no, this is a common theme that you'll notice in this conversation. This is my wife got me this shirt. Wow. I wore it's in my, like, you can't see it, but in my like Instagram picture, this is the shirt that I'm wearing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I got to give you one of those.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. It's this plus like a 35-pound hammer, like kettlebell hammer, like, but it's actual hammer. Yeah. The kids love that one too. They can't pick it up, but that's all right. They will someday.
Super awesome. All right. So you've been doing this for a year. Obviously, you've only been in NLCA for 32 days, like you mentioned before.
Yeah.
Let's talk through that year. How did that, were you by yourself? Were you with a different mentor? What did that look like?
Completely by myself. I mean, wandering around in the dark is probably the best way to put it. And then with many bouts of just standing in the dark and not doing anything. It was a lot of someday talk from me, a lot of like, someday I'll take this seriously and get consistent about it. And, someday I'll be helping out, like, think of how many dads I'll be able to help someday, and how, like how much goodness I'll be able to bring into the world. Like, I guess I just need to post more, like videos of me working out. Like it was for the guys that were working with me, it was great. Like, I still have those 2 guys that started with me last summer. Like, I still work with them to this day. And they're still with me now. And so I went through that for like 5 months, actually signed up for another online training certification in late October of last year. And it was like, this is not to talk shit. This is a pejorative way of referring to what that other company was. It was really just like a fancy textbook. Like, it was just like the delivery of information without a roadmap to like navigate the information. Like, it'd be like you just like walk into a library and they're just like, well, everything that you need to know is here. And it's like, well, where do I start? And they're like, just do it all. And it's like, okay, like, not super helpful. And so like that finished up around that I like worked my way through that right around Christmas time last year. Got like one client with that. I worked with him for a couple months, got him good results, but then I didn't have like a ascension program or any sort of mechanism to keep folks connected to me after that. So he was just like, hey man, thanks, see you later. And I was like, hey, congrats on the new body, I'll hopefully talk to you eventually. So did that for, like I said, it was like a 90-day program. But then even after that, I still just was like, I think I told myself that I was too busy or not motivated or whatever. What I really I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I've always been a guy that has the answers. Like, I'm pretty successful, relatively speaking, in my day job, was a great student and stuff like that. And I was very, very uncomfortable with that feeling of like not knowing what to do next. And so I just avoided it. Like, quite frankly, it's not like I was spinning my wheels. Like, I was just sitting there in neutral until getting started with NLCA, until like transition a little bit. Like, that's one of the things that I've found to be extremely valuable about NLCA, is that it's like you're like, the path is before you. You just need to walk the path. And then not only that, like, there's other people on the path with you you could, if you need to kind of like take the binoculars out to stretch the metaphor and look down because you need something. Like I had my first sales call yesterday with a complete cold lead that it's a guy who followed me for some reason. I sent him a message, said thanks for following, went through the script, ended up scheduling the call with him yesterday. I was like, oh shit, I need a sales presentation. Like I'm not there in the modules. Well, like, hey, good news. Click the magnifying glass, search sales, and it pops right up. Knocked it out yesterday morning. It was great. And so like that's kind of been the journey. I think I probably gave you more than you're bargaining for with the question that you asked me, but like that's the journey I've experienced over the past year or so.
Dude, I love the depth. You're killing it. You're killing it. Let's unpack this. So I wrote down a couple of notes. The first thing, this is like prior to you working with any mentor, you said that you were working or trying to work on it yourself for 9 months, but you kept saying the word someday.
Yeah.
Let's dig deeper into that, because I think there's a lot of people who are still at that point. It may take them multiple years to get past that point, but what kind of broke the barrier there from someday to trying? I mean, from there, you went from someday to with a mentor to then trying again to now with NLCA. So you are pushing through this path here. What broke the initial someday?
So this is so there's kind of like two phases of it, and there's this one like specific purchase that I made that has been like non-coaching related, that has had a lot of impact on me, and I've shared it with some of my clients as well. But even like prior to that, that's a little tease. I'll get to that in a second. But like before that, it was really my experience as a father. Like I felt like there was a better version of me that I wanted my like children to see, who wasn't like who was walking the talk, not just like saying stuff. I mean, and like out in the future, I have these very specific instances in my day job where you have the experience of like asking for a vacation day, and it's like, hey, I have this thing I want to do with my family. Like, hey, complete stranger who just happens to be my boss, like, can you please give me permission to spend time with my family? And like that just irks me, like every time I have to do it. And I haven't even ever been told no. Like it's not like it's not like I actually have experienced the restriction, but just the fact that like I'm not in control of how much time I get to see my kids and my wife. I don't like that. And so like I just kind of like internalized that discussion and said, like, your kid, you only have 18 birthdays to spend with your kids before they go off and do their own thing. Hopefully they're not living here forever. And so like you just need to do something about it. And then like what happened after that is like around this January of this year, I bought this chart. It's just on the top, it just says weeks of life, and there's 100 rows and 52 columns. And at the end of every week, you fill in one of the dots. And I have marked on there like the average life expectancy of an American male, which like I hope to exceed. But it's like a very visceral reaction every time I look at that chart each week. It's like, hey, like here's another week down, like that's not coming back. And so like when that happened, it was like, I have a reminder on my phone to look at the chart every day, because it's that hasn't just been a coaching business thing. That's been a life experience motivator, just like physically watching the weeks tick away and thinking to yourself, like, do you want to keep waiting? And the answer was no. And so that's when I decided to kind of like get serious about this like coaching business. And I was like, at that point, this is still pre NLCA, but I started to, I was watching Hermosi YouTube videos and stuff like that, like trying to like, just to like in a consumption mode, but without the guidance, I kind of ran into the same issues. And so then you came up on my Instagram saying that there was a scholarship for NLCA students, and I applied for the scholarship. And this is where like sometimes the universe is trying to tell you something. On the day that my day job told me, today is your first day that you need to go back to the office and you can no longer work from home for 5 days a week. That morning, as I was getting ready to leave, I got a text that said, you have been awarded the like NLCA scholarship. Wow. And it was like, this is not an accident, you know? And so like, it was very, I like told my wife, I was just like, this is like, you know, the iron is hot. Like it's time to strike, you know, like this is destiny, so to speak. Yeah. So it was like, it's a very, that is obviously not like the typical, you know, typical like student experience to have those things kind of like line up, but that's what happened to me.
That's awesome, man. Thor shot a lightning bolt down and he said, you're becoming Father today.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome, man. Where do I get the Weeks of Life chart? Is that something I'll purchase on Amazon I can make?
Yeah, it was just on Amazon. Like I honestly, like I have the clients that I have that have purchased or like made their own on Excel and just printed it off or whatever. Like it is, it's hard to stay mad. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to not have motivation when you're just reminded like very succinct. I just have it in my closet. Every time I put a shirt on, I'm reminded, it's like, this is how many weeks you got, hopefully, you know.
That's wild. That's wild. I've seen that chart once before. One of my friends have it, but you just inspired me to purchase it. So I will be getting it after this meeting.
Good.
Hell yeah, man. All right. So we chatted about someday, right? We chatted about you becoming the best version of yourself, which is ultimately why you decided to move forward. You worked with this other offer. It sounds like the big thing with the other offer is they gave you a lot of information, but it wasn't super clear. I know you're only 32 days into NLCA. What would you say are some of the stark differences that you're noticing in your short time here compared to your previous experience?
Yeah. So like I'll just get some of the easy stuff kind of out of the way. The content is, I mean, dramatically more helpful because it is more tactical and prescriptive, but not at a like micromanagey level. It's just like, hey, here's the principles. Like, here's the can't miss items that you need to be doing. Do this right now. In the instances where it's like, here is like here is me on the website showing you how to, you know, sign up for your Wave payment processing or whatever. Like there's so many opportunities for friction when you're starting something new that like what the content does is it bypasses all these like micro frictions that people may leverage to stop themselves. Like they come up with an excuse. So it's like, well, I don't know how to use Wave, so I'll wait until I have more time to do it. It's like, it doesn't matter, like fire up the video, just click along, you know? So like the content in that sense is propulsive. It's not just like stuff that you're getting, it is actively moving you along the path. And the other piece is like the one-on-one coach that I have, Lacey is my coach. She's awesome. Like on my very first game planning call, it was just like, this is somebody that like has my best interest at heart for sure, is willing to tell me exactly what I like, not what I want to hear, but what I should be hearing. And that is like a big thing as well, because the other offer had like a mentorship program, but it was more like office hours. Like you would just go into the professor's, you know, office and just be like, you know, he would say, do you have any questions? And I'm like, I don't even know what I don't know. You know, like I'm not armed with enough to ask, you know. And he would just say like, well, it sounds like you don't need any help. And I was just like, the exact opposite. I need unlimited help. And so like the way that the coaching happens in NLCA is much more like, hey, like just to keep using that metaphor, like here's the path. By the next time we meet, like try to get to here, and in between now and then, like here's what you need to be doing. You know, here's the things that I hear you saying that are going to hold you back. That is all happening on the call. And then the last part, which is the part that I honestly thought, like when I first signed up, my initial impression was like, this is just like a bolt-on thing that is like kind of nice, but I won't get much out of it. And that is the community aspect, like the WhatsApp chat with everybody. It felt like it was one of those things where it's just like, Yeah, that's cool. Like, but I bet nobody posts, and it's just one of those things that like sounds good, but it doesn't actually. And it's the exact opposite. Like, I think that is one of the most powerful things for me. And the metaphor for me on that is like, I can't remember his name, like Roger Bannister or whatever, the guy who ran the first 4-minute mile.
Okay.
Like that happened. And then immediately afterwards, right, a bunch of people all did it. Well, like when you're starting an online fitness business, chances are you don't know anybody else that does this. Yeah. And the people that you do know, like your friends and family, the only people that they know about that do it are the people that have, 300,000 followers on Instagram. And so they're just like, you don't have that. Like, that's not for you. It's not that they don't believe in you. It's just that they're like, the conditions for success that they see in the industry are of a particular vein of fitness entrepreneur, which is more like along the fitness influencer like thing. And that was true for me too. Then you go into the like into my WhatsApp chat, and the person's like, hey, is the $10,000 accelerator like collected or contracted? Because I think I just hit that, but I want to make sure. And I'm like, what? Like, who? 10,000? Like, I hope to be worried about that type of semantics, like in the near future. But to be able to just see in the chat like other people succeeding is watching other people run the 4-minute mile, and it's like, this is possible, and possible by people who are like me, not like some CrossFit Games athlete who everybody knows, and so now he can sell his programming. Like, yeah. that is the part that is like such a big unlock for folks that I don't think they would. Or at least I'll just speak for myself. I didn't look at that as a super high leverage thing inside of NLCA. And what it has turned out to be is like the thing that totally unlocked my mindset. It was just like, oh, like this person's just doing the modules and look what's happening to them. They're just like me, like it was very like, you have active reinforcement that the program provides success all the time. And that is super, super propulsive, to use that word again, like super propulsive for me, because you're just constantly getting like little hits of it's possible. And like not from people who have already made it, like people who are just a few steps in front of you down the path. And like that has been incredibly valuable for me.
Hell yeah, man. So what I heard is the community has been a surprising benefit for you.
100%.
But your biggest description, at least coming back to what you've said multiple times, is that our coaching is more proactive rather than reactive, right? It's,
yes,
here are your next 3 steps. I'm going to hold you accountable to that, opposed to, hey, what questions do you have? And you kind of figure it out on your own, which I think is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if like, I don't know where this quote comes from, but I heard it the other day. I actually used it in our WhatsApp group chat a couple of days ago. Just like, if knowledge was the gatekeeper, we would all be millionaires with 6-packs. Like, you can get the information. It's the execution and the application is where like the secret sauce is. And that is I think is where NLCA really shines, is because it is specific and intentional enough about how to apply the knowledge, not just giving it to you. And like, that is really like what takes it from like a nice to have to a must have for somebody getting started. Because if you're like me and you don't have a lot of time, you can't afford to be wasting your time doing shit you shouldn't be doing. You need to like, I can't learn on the clock, like I mean, that's like probably like an oversimplification, but like, I have a day job, I have 2 kids, a wife, they're my number 1 priority. I'm doing this for them, so I can't supplant them by doing this. So like, when I have the time, I need to know that it's the right stuff, and the content, the community, and the coaching, all 3 of those things like align to make sure that I'm leveraging my time to the like best of my capability.
Yeah, it's important, especially for a lot of people in the 10K accelerator program. Is time is the biggest barrier, because they have the 9 to 5 that they're trying to transition out to, the family, right? The other obligations. By the way, great interview. You're killing it. You definitely need your own podcast, because you're very good at speaking. Because we're running short on time, I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
Usually I say, if you had to talk to yourself in the beginning, what would you say now? But you're 32 days in. So that that question doesn't apply. So I'm going to reframe the question.
Okay.
32 days in, what is the biggest mindset barrier that you've had broken already that you think could help somebody who is 30 days before you?
This is like, this is kind of like an emotional subject for me. So like you need to, this is a term that I used on my Instagram live the other day. You need to I needed to kill the daydream. So like what I mean by that is like when I would get stressed out in my day job, I would think to myself, like, this is that someday phrase again, like someday I will have a coaching business that allows me the like flexibility to, you know, do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And in one of the mindset modules, I think it's like the crushing self-doubt module, I think it is like, you can either continue to doubt yourself that you can do it, because that's what the daydream is the daydream is an admission to yourself, like in a backdoor way, that like, you're not good enough to do this right now, is what you're telling yourself. So like you put it out into the future. Someday you will be the type of person who does this. But you're that person right now. You just need to do the shit. And like that was like the main mindset shift for me, was like, you can't wait until it's not scary, and you can't wait until you're the type of person who has a super successful fitness business, because you don't become that person through waiting. You become that person through doing. 100%. And so like that was the biggest mindset shift for me, was like, if you wait till you're comfortable, you will wait until you've filled up all the boxes on your chart. You need to start doing to become that is how you become the person. Like, so that was the main thing for me. It was like, you can't, like, you're not just going to wake up one day and be like, oh my gosh, I have the confidence to be a fitness coach that's making doing 100K months. You know, like that is a building that is built. It doesn't just appear, you know, but it's built brick by brick, and you need to start laying the bricks if you want the building.
Yeah, 100%. I remember exactly what I said in the module. I said, you're going to be scared if you do, and you're going to be scared if you don't.
Yes.
You might as well just do it anyways.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like the time will pass anyway. Like you might as well get to the other end of, like, once that hourglass like runs out, whatever that time period is, you might as well have done the work instead of just have wished you had.
Yeah, that's why people got to buy that Amazon chart.
That's right, man. That's right.
Dude, this has been phenomenal. Ross, where can people find you at?
Yeah, so best place at Father Figure Fitness AZ on Instagram. And then that is the business page. You'll see me talking into the camera, getting uncomfortable, helping dads be stronger, more fit, so they can feel comfortable with their shirts off, have more fun with their family.
Let's go, man. Dude, thank you so much for popping on. Guys, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, make sure you give Ross a follow. Also, screenshot it up, post it up on your story as well. There's lots of other people that need to hear this message, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.